morning, everyone. This is John Katorna, and I'm recording this first of two short videos for the CHEP Iberia conference in Barcelona. The title of the first part of this is Designing Supply Chains from the Outside In, and this has been a very big message that I've been pushing around the world for the last few years to combat the previous experience, which was very much about designing supply chains from the inside out. The reason for the change is that we have just got to start connecting with customers better. There's been too much over-servicing and under-servicing going on, and while we were able to get away with that in the good years when there was plenty of growth around, with the sort of volatile operating environment that we have now, we've got to start connecting with our customers in a much more finely tuned way. The key thing about supply chains that I've recognised is that supply chains are really animate things. They're driven by people. Yes, there's technology involved and there's infrastructure involved, but at least 50% of what goes on in enterprise supply chains is what is driven by people, people's behaviour, their decision making, customers making decisions to buy, suppliers making decisions how they're going to supply, people inside a business making decisions about make to order or make to stock. And so the combination of all those things, in my view, adds up to at least half of the activity that goes on in supply chains. And yet, most companies are in denial about this. Perhaps the key thing, though, is that we've not in the past been able to find a link to inside the company to adequately link with our customers. We've left it to our marketing and sales people to deal with the customers, and the back office logistics area and procurement area has really been a little lost in a sense because they've not been directly connected. What I want to do today is to introduce you to a concept called dynamic alignment, which I've been working on now since 1989, where we developed a model which basically said, if you want to do well in any sort of enterprise, doesn't matter whether it's a service enterprise or a product enterprise, there's four things you have to line up. You have to understand your customers and the marketplace within which they operate. You need to develop corresponding value propositions depending on what you find there. You then have to go within your own organisation and change the organisation design and develop different subcultures inside the business, and of course to do that you need leadership. I'm going to take you through the first two of these in this first video, and I'll have another short video after that that you can look at where we'll investigate the implementation end, which is really about developing the subcultures inside the business and the leadership that goes with it. The whole idea of segmenting customers has been around a long time, but of course we've been using segmentation in the marketing and sales area, but not really recognising its importance in designing our supply chains. Those things have been quite separate. What we have recognised through our field work is that whilst there are many different ways of segmenting your marketplace, you can look at customers based on their geography or on the institutions or on the industrial classification. Quite frankly, none of that is of any value when you're trying to design supply chains. It doesn't inform the design. The only real valid way of doing this is to actually understand better how customers want to buy, what their preferences are. And this is called behavioural segmentation. And what we're looking for there is to understand people's biases. Do they have a bias for innovation and creativity, or do they have the opposite bias, which is to take risk aversion and low price and routine? Or do they have a bias towards action and results and speed? Or do they have a bias towards relationships? All these things are quite possible within the human frame. And what we have to know is, can we gather enough customers in one place to make an economic group, called a segment, which will allow us to address that particular group in a particular way from inside the business. What's been happening in most organisations up to date since the early days of supply chain is that we've been over-servicing and under-servicing our marketplace without sort of understanding which is which. And that's quite wasteful. And what we want to do now is to more finely tune the organisation and align it with the different customers. And that means we need slightly different pathways through our organisations to connect with customers who have differing preferences. The work we've done over the years, and there was nothing written about this before we started looking at it empirically, is that there's about 16 different ways that you can categorise people's buying behaviour. Now that's too scary. We don't want the one-size-fits-all, but nor do we need 16 different segments that require 16 different supply chains. The good news is that when we kept looking, we found patterns, and in fact, in most businesses, we find that there's no more than 3 or 4 dominant buying behaviours in the marketplace that gives us about an 80% fit to the market. And these are generally customers that want to collaborate, customers that are looking for a low price, efficient, reliable delivery, customers that are opportunistic and looking for speed, and customers are looking for innovation and creativity to solve some problem. So what we end up with in that case is, if we can identify 4 buying behaviours in the marketplace, then effectively we can reverse engineer back, and we can come up with 4 different value propositions, 4 different subcultures inside the business, and 4 different leadership styles to drive it. And we end up with these 4 different supply chains, and in some cases I've found a 5th, particularly in industrial situations where we've got projects where I have identified what I call the project accumulation supply chain. Once we've done that, then it's a question of lining up our internal resources and our value propositions to more finely align with those different value propositions, those different segments in the marketplace. And here, again, one of the insights we've got is that you don't just rely on people in logistics to do the job. Every one of us inside our business has to contribute to the supply chain, which runs horizontally across the business. We continue to manage our businesses vertically, but actually customers buy horizontally, and that's been one of the problems. And that's why organisation design has become one of the big issues here, and I'll mention that again later. So as we start to develop our propositions, we've got to look at the products that we're going to push down particular pathways, how much innovation we're going to use, what channels we're going to use as well, particularly with the coming of e-commerce and online. Pricing is another thing that factors into each of the supply chains. What sort of promotional activity, how are we going to procure in our supply side to match what we're doing at the front end? What are we going to do in production differently to get different results as we move through our production facilities? How do we manage capacity in different ways? How do we manage fulfillment in the logistics sense at the front end, and all these sorts of things? These are all combinations of things that we can treat as recipes, and we can come up with specific recipes for each particular segment that we're trying to attack. If we take the first one, what I call the collaborative segment, then we would have what I call a continuous replenishment supply chain. The value proposition here is that we're going to really look after these customers. We're going to give them a great result. We're going to be looking after them. We're going to be very consistent, and in turn they will be wanting to stick with us over time. Beyond that, we've got the lean supply chain, which is delivering quite a different value proposition, where it's low cost and most efficient to give those customers what they're looking for. Beyond that, we've got the agile supply chain, which copes with the volatility in the marketplace. And beyond that, we've got what I call the fully flexible supply chain, which can deliver innovative solutions very, very quickly if we need them. So those are the things that we want to do, and in effect, what we're doing is not creating exceptions inside the business, but we're actually putting together different combinations or recipes of processes and organisations and organisation designs and KPIs and positioning people in different ways so that we can get those unique propositions delivered. The problem, of course, is that up to now is that we've been promising all sorts of things. We've been saying that we've been customer-centric when we're really not. And worse still, we've been writing things down in our business plans and then not delivering them. Our research shows that up to 60% of what we write down in our business plans about what we're going to do never get delivered, and it's got nothing to do with competitors. It's more to do with people inside the business who just haven't got the aligned subcultures in place in order to deliver the value propositions that we've written down. So that'll be the subject of my second talk, where I'll specialise more on the implementation in having designed what we want to do on paper and got the architecture right. What we have to do then is now look more inside the organisation to develop the capabilities and the corresponding leadership to ensure that those capabilities are in place so we can deliver the value propositions that we promise our customers. So I'll come back to you shortly with a second video on this.